One day, our driver, Jeff, kissed me. A single, unexpected kiss that shattered everything I thought I knew. It wasn't romance that changed my life. It was the truth that kiss uncovered. A truth that pushed me to leave my broken marriage, walk away from the mansion I once called home, and step into a new life as a maid. But I wasn't done with pain, not yet. Because in Jason's house, where I thought I'd be safe, another woman's cruelty would test me again. This is my story. A story of betrayal, of awakening, of quiet courage, and of finding love in the most unexpected places. Hi and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time of coming across my video, subscribe, like and hit on notifications, and for my returning subscribers, thanks always for stopping by. They say love makes you feel alive. But for the longest time, I only felt invisible. My name is Irene. I used to be the quiet woman standing beside a powerful man, dressed in expensive clothes I never chose, smiling for pictures I never wanted. My husband, Ethan, was a wealthy businessman. To the world, we were perfect, graceful at galas, elegant in photos, enviable in every way. But behind closed doors, I was nothing more than a shadow in my own home. I met Ethan when I was just 23. He was charming, older, and said all the right things. He swept me off my feet with dinners in Paris and diamond necklaces before I even knew what real love looked like. I mistook attention for affection, and when he proposed in front of 1,000 people at a charity event, I said yes. Not out of love, but out of awe. From the moment we married, the shift was subtle but cruel. He stopped asking what I thought. He stopped noticing what I wore. I would dress up for dinner, and he'd walk right past me like I was the furniture. He'd fly to New York or Dubai without telling me. And the worst part? He never took me with him. You wouldn't enjoy it, he'd say, as if I were too fragile for the world he lived in. I stayed home in our cold, beautiful mansion, where even the silence echoed wealth. I tried to busy myself with books, flowers, and painting. But you can't paint over pain. You can't read away loneliness. And then came Jeff. He was our driver. Polite. Tall. Always on time. He never looked me in the eye unless I spoke first, always respecting the invisible walls Ethan had built around me. But I noticed things, how he opened doors slowly, how he waited a second longer when I was sad, how his voice was softer with me. One afternoon, Ethan asked Jeff to drive me to an art exhibit I had begged him to attend with me for months. He had promised to come, then canceled the same day, claiming something urgent came up at work. I was wearing a green silk dress, the one he said was his favorite. I had curled my hair. I had even put on red lipstick. And all for what? To be driven to the event alone, like a discarded package? When Jeff parked outside the gallery, I didn't move. My eyes filled with tears I had been holding for years. You can go, I whispered. But Jeff didn't go. He turned the engine off, leaned slightly toward me, and asked, "Are you okay, ma'am?" I shook my head. "Do I look okay?" He hesitated. Then, for the first time, he looked at me, not like a boss's wife, but like a woman. "No," he said. "You look like someone who deserves better." His words undid me. All the cracks I had covered with silence broke open. "Why does he hate me?" I whispered. "What did I do wrong?" Jeff didn't answer right away. Then he said, "It's not about you. It's about who he is." I looked at him, really looked, and in that moment, something passed between us. Something unspoken. Dangerous. Human. Before I could stop it, he leaned forward and kissed me. It was soft, gentle, brief, but it was real. Not like the cold, scripted kisses Ethan gave for cameras. This was honest. Messy. Painful. I pulled back, shaken. "I'm sorry," Jeff said immediately, eyes wide. That was wrong. But it wasn't wrong. It was the first time I had felt seen in years. I got out of the car and went into the gallery alone, heart racing. I couldn't focus on the paintings. All I could think about was the way Jeff looked at me, as if I mattered. When I returned, Ethan was at home. He didn't ask how the exhibit went. He didn't notice the smudged lipstick or the red in my eyes. He was on the phone, probably with one of the women I later found out about. That night, something inside me changed. I followed my instincts for the first time in our marriage. I looked through his office drawers. I checked his email. And what I found broke me. There were love letters, from women. Bank transfers to unknown accounts. Hotel reservations on nights he said he was working late. My life hadn't just been lonely. It had been a lie. When I confronted him, he laughed. "You're overreacting," he said. "You're lucky I even married you." That was the final crack. I packed a small bag and left the next morning without a word. No driver. No tears. No goodbye. I didn't even tell Jeff. For a while, I stayed in a women's shelter. Then, I found a job cleaning houses. The pay was little, but for the first time, I was in control of my own time, my own steps, my own peace. That's how I met Jason. He was rich, yes, but different. A widower. Quiet. Focused on his business and his little daughter, Amanda, who hadn't spoken since her mother died. His fiancée, Jane, was beautiful and bold, but something about her felt wrong. She didn't like me from the start. But I didn't care. I wasn't there for love or comfort. I was there to earn a living. What I didn't know then was that I had just stepped into another storm. One that would test everything I had learned about love, betrayal, and survival. Jason's home was beautiful, but not in the way Ethan's had been. His mansion wasn't cold or filled with things to impress guests. It was warm. Lived in. There were drawings taped to the fridge and tiny fingerprints on the glass stair railing. It was the kind of place that whispered stories, not secrets. Jason was nothing like Ethan. He greeted me with kindness, not arrogance. He respected my space and didn't treat me like I was invisible. Still, he kept his distance. His heart, you could tell, was wrapped in grief. I didn't blame him. His daughter, Amanda, was 7. She hadn't spoken a word in over a year. After her mother died in a tragic car accident, something inside her shut down. I would often find her sitting on the windowsill, staring at the garden like she was waiting for something that would never come. Then there was Jane, Jason's fiancée. Jane was tall, sharp, and stylish. But behind her perfect smile was someone cruel. She didn't like me from the beginning. I saw it in her eyes, in the way she gave me orders like I was trash. She acted sweet around Jason, but the moment he walked out of the room, her voice changed, hard, icy, and full of threats. I kept my head down and did my work. But it wasn't long before I started noticing things. Little things. Jewelry disappearing from the late wife's safe. Cash going missing from Jason's study. Amanda's favorite toys thrown away. Jane would blame the child, saying Amanda was acting out. But I knew better. I saw the way Amanda flinched whenever Jane entered the room. I saw the bruises on her small arms. I tried to say something once, but Jane smiled and said, "If you ever try to talk to Jason about me, I'll make sure you disappear, housemaid." I kept quiet. Not because I was afraid for myself, but for Amanda. She needed someone on her side. One rainy afternoon, Amanda was playing with her dolls in the kitchen while I made soup. She suddenly handed me a crayon drawing. It showed 4 stick figures, Jason, Amanda, her late mother, and me. She had drawn me holding her hand. My eyes filled with tears. "You trust me?" I whispered. She nodded. Later that night, I overheard Jane on a phone call. She was in the study with the door slightly open. Her voice was sharp and panicked. "No, idiot. We don't have much time. He's starting to notice the missing money. I told you, once we get access to the second account, we'll vanish. But we have to get rid of that maid. She's seen too much." I held my breath. My heart thundered. Jane wasn't just cruel. She was dangerous. The next morning, I found my room torn apart. My clothes scattered. My small jewelry box emptied. And on the bed, Jason's missing cufflinks, Amanda's broken bracelet, and a handful of the late wife's gold pins. Jane's trap. She framed me. Before I could speak, Jane barged in with Jason behind her, faking tears. "She's been stealing from us, Jason." I caught her red-handed. She probably thought no one would suspect the maid. Jason looked at the items, then at me. His face was unreadable. I opened my mouth to defend myself, but Amanda walked in, holding another drawing. This one showed Jane in red with sharp teeth. Underneath was a small sentence, scribbled in crayon. "She hurts me." Jason knelt beside his daughter, stunned. "Amanda, you spoke." The little girl clung to me. That was all the truth Jason needed. He turned to Jane, fury in his eyes. "Get out." Jane's face twisted in shock. "You believe her? A mute child and a maid?" Jason's voice was firm. "No. I believe my daughter. And Irene is more of a mother to her than you've ever been." Jane left that night, but not quietly. She screamed, threatened, and even tried to strike me. Jason stepped between us. After she was gone, silence settled over the house, but this time, it wasn't empty. It was peaceful. I packed my things, ready to leave too. I didn't want to overstay my welcome. But Jason stopped me. "Stay. Amanda needs you. And honestly, so do I." I looked into his eyes and saw something I hadn't seen in a man for a long time: respect. Not lust. Not ownership. Just deep, quiet respect. I stayed. Not as a maid, but as someone rebuilding a life, one filled with purpose, not pain. I never thought I'd start over at 32. When I left Ethan, I had no plans, no savings, no voice. Just a suitcase and a broken heart. But somehow, in the wreckage of that life, something gentle had begun to grow in Jason's home. In Amanda's quiet trust. In the simple act of folding laundry, preparing warm meals, and walking a grieving child to sleep. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was healing. Jason kept his word, he stood by me. After Jane left, he uncovered everything. Bank records, fake IDs, stolen jewelry hidden in boxes she planned to ship overseas. She was arrested within weeks. He apologized more than once for ever letting someone like that into Amanda's life. But I told him the truth. "She fooled all of us," I said. "Even a smart man like you." He smiled, and it was the first time I saw something soften in him. He had a quiet strength, not the loud, flashy kind Ethan had used to control everyone around him. Jason's power came from presence. He listened when I spoke. He noticed when I was tired. He never asked for more than I was willing to give. One evening, Amanda came to the kitchen holding 2 books. "One's for me," she said, smiling shyly. "And one's for you to read to me." It was the first full sentence I had ever heard her say. Tears filled my eyes. I picked her up and kissed her forehead. "Let's read." That night, as I read fairy tales beside her bed, Jason stood quietly by the door. When I looked up, his eyes weren't on the story, they were on me. Not in a way that made me afraid, not in the way Ethan once did. His gaze was steady, like he saw me, not just the pretty face, not the housemaid, but Irene. The woman I had forgotten existed. That weekend, Jason invited me and Amanda to the countryside for a short getaway. Just a break, he said. Nothing formal. We stayed in a cozy lake house surrounded by pine trees and wildflowers. Amanda laughed for the first time in months, running through the woods barefoot. I hadn't felt so free in years. One evening, while Amanda slept curled beside the fireplace, Jason and I sat on the porch watching the stars. "Do you miss him?" he asked quietly. I knew who he meant. "Sometimes," I said. Not him, exactly. But the idea of what I thought love was. He nodded. I lost my wife in a car crash. But the truth is, I started losing her long before that. She was sick for a long time. I couldn't save her. I reached for his hand. It wasn't romantic, it was human. "I think we all carry ghosts," I said. Jason turned toward me and for a moment, I wondered if he would kiss me. A part of me wanted him to. Another part, stronger, wasn't ready. He saw that, and he didn't push. Instead, he squeezed my hand gently and looked back at the stars. Respect. That night, I cried in bed, not because I was sad, but because I felt something I hadn't felt in years, safe. Over the next few weeks, I settled into a rhythm with Amanda. We baked cookies, read books, planted flowers. She began talking more, slowly at first, like her voice had forgotten how to exist in the world. But it came back. So did mine. One morning, while cleaning out an old storage room, I found my paintbrushes. I had packed them long ago when I fled Ethan's house. I hadn't touched them since. On a whim, I set up an easel in the sunroom and began to paint. The first stroke felt like breathing. Jason noticed the paintings a week later. "Did you do these?" he asked, wide-eyed. I nodded. "They're incredible. Why did you ever stop?" I looked down at my hands. Because I was married to a man who only saw what he wanted to see. And art wasn't one of those things. Jason picked up one of the paintings. "Well, I see you now." Those words hit deeper than any love letter ever could. But love, as I had learned, is never simple. It doesn't bloom all at once. It grows through trust, through kindness, through the quiet moments no one else sees. Months passed, and the seasons changed. Amanda started school again. Jason spent more time at home. I continued to work in the house, though he offered to help me start my own art business. I politely declined. "This is where I need to be right now," I told him. "With you." With Amanda. One evening, we sat in the garden watching Amanda chase butterflies. Jason turned to me. "Irene, what would you say if I asked you to stay here, not as the maid, but as part of our family?" I smiled, tears forming again. But I shook my head. "Jason. I've just started finding myself again. For the first time, I don't feel like I belong to anyone. I need to hold on to that a little longer." He nodded, not hurt, just understanding. "Then I'll wait," he said. "As long as it takes. Because real love waits." And sometimes, the greatest love stories aren't about romance. They're about rediscovering your voice, rebuilding your heart, and finding a home where you are finally seen. That's the story of the house where I wasn't seen, and the one where I finally was. So many people out there go through a lot of pains, frustrations and agony in their homes. This is a story that will awaken the truth and push you to know your worth. I hope you find this helpful. Subscribe, like and hit on notifications for more electrifying stories like this.